Hi, my name is Jerry Graves. I'm the CDL training manager here at Cisco in Portland. We're about to demonstrate how to perform a proper pre-trip inspection for the state of Oregon. Just remember when you're doing this pre-trip that you need to point to or touch the items you're inspecting and fully explain what you're inspecting each item for.
All right, I'm going to start my pre-trip inspection on the passenger side of my engine compartment. First, I'm going to check the ground for any signs of visible leaks. Next, I'm going to check my hoses and my belts and electrical connections. Make sure they are all properly mounted and secure at both ends. They are not cracked, bent, or broken. There are no abrasions, bulges, or cuts, and there are no exposed or frayed wires. There are also no visible or audible leaks. Next, I'm going to check my belt-driven alternator, make sure it is properly mounted and secure. It's not cracked, bent, or broken. There are no loose, missing nuts, bolts, or hardware. The electrical connections are properly mounted and secure. There are no exposed or frayed wires. The belt itself is properly mounted and secure. It is not cut, worn, or frayed, and it has no more than 1/2 to 3/4 inch of deflection. Then I'm going to move to the driver's side. Next, on the driver's side of my engine compartment, I'm going to first check the ground for any puddles or signs of visible leaks. Next, I'm going to check my hoses, my electrical connections and belts. Make sure they are all properly mounted and secure at both ends. There are no abrasions, bulges, or cuts. There are no exposed or frayed wires, and there are no visible or audible leaks. Next, I'm going to check my coolant reservoir. Make sure it is properly mounted and secure. It's not cracked, bent, or broken. There are no loose or missing nuts, bolts, or hardware. There are no visible leaks. The fluid level is at the proper level between the minimum and the maximum, and the cap is hand tight. The hose itself is properly mounted and secure at both ends. There are no abrasions, bulges, or cuts. There are no loose or missing nuts, bolts, clamps, or other fittings, and there are no visible leaks. From there, I'm going to move to my engine oil fill tube and my engine oil dipstick. Make sure they are properly mounted and secure. They are not cracked, bent, or broken. There are no visible leaks, and the caps are hand tight. To check my engine oil level, I'm going to pull out the dipstick, clean it off, reinsert it, and pull it back out to ensure it is at the proper fluid level between the minimum and the maximum. From there, I will check my power steering reservoir, make sure it is properly mounted and secure. It's not cracked, bent, or broken, and there are no loose or missing nuts, bolts, or hardware. I will ensure it is at the proper fluid level between the minimum and the maximum, and the caps are hand tight. Then I will inspect its hose, which connects the power steering reservoir to the steering gearbox. I'll make sure it's properly mounted and secure at both ends. There are no abrasions, bulges, or cuts. There are no loose or missing nuts, bolts, clamps, or other fittings, and there are no visible leaks. From there, I will go inside and check my gear-driven air compressor and my gear-driven power steering pump. I'll make sure those are both properly mounted and secure. They are not cracked, bent, or broken. There are no loose or missing nuts, bolts, or hardware, and there are no visible or audible leaks. Then I will check my belt-driven water pump, make sure it is properly mounted and secure. It's not cracked, bent, or broken. There are no loose or missing nuts, bolts, or hardware, and there are no visible leaks. I will inspect its hose, make sure it's properly mounted and secure at both ends. There are no abrasions, bulges, or cuts. There are no loose or missing nuts, bolts, clamps, or other fittings, and there are no visible leaks. From there, I will inspect its belt. I will make sure it is properly mounted and secure. It is not cut, worn, or frayed, and there is no more than 1/2 to 3/4 inch of deflection. From there, I will inspect my steering gearbox, make sure it is properly mounted and secure. It is not cracked, bent, or broken. There are no loose or missing nuts, bolts, or other hardware, and there are no visible leaks. From there, I will inspect my steering linkage, which consists of my pitman arm, my drag link, my upper control arm, and my tie rod. Make sure they are all properly mounted and secure, held in place by their castle nuts and cotter keys. They're, they are not cracked, bent, or broken. They are not missing their castle nut or cotter keys. The bushings are not worn, dry rotted, or missing, and everything is intact, not cracked, bent, or broken. From there, I will inspect my front suspension, which consists of my front and rear spring mounts, my front and rear bushings, my leaf springs, my U-bolts, and my shock absorbers. I will make sure they are all properly mounted and secure at front and rear, at the top and bottom. Make sure nothing is cracked, bent, or broken. The bushings are not worn, dry rotted, or missing. The U-bolts are not loose or missing their nuts, and the shock absorbers are not visibly leaking. From there, I will close the hood. Now that I've closed the hood, I'll continue down, inspect my mirrors and my doors, make sure they are all properly mounted and secure. They're not cracked, bent, or broken. There are no loose or missing nuts, bolts, or other fittings. The door opens and closes freely. The exterior and interior handles operate correctly. The hinges are properly mounted and secure. They're not cracked, bent, or broken. There are no loose or missing nuts, bolts, or other hardware, and there are no signs of rust. Then I will inspect the seals of my doors, make sure they are properly mounted and secure. They're not cut, worn, or dry rotted. From there, I will inspect my marker lights, make sure they are properly mounted and secure. They are not cracked, bent, or broken. They're amber in color, free of moisture, clean, and operational. From there, I will inspect my fuel tanks and my diesel exhaust fluid tank. Make sure they are all properly mounted and secure. They're not cracked, bent, or broken. There are no signs of visible leaks. The caps are hand tight, and the chain inside the caps are connected to the chain and inside the fuel tanks. Then I will inspect the straps, complete with the rubber insulators, make sure they are all properly mounted and secure. They're not cracked, bent, or broken. There are no loose or missing nuts, bolts, or other hardware. And the rubber is intact, not cut, worn, or dry rotted. From there, I will inspect my drive shaft, make sure it is properly mounted and secure at both ends. There are no cracks, bent. It is not cracked, bent, or broken. The U-joints are properly lubricated and free of debris. From there, I will inspect my exhaust system, which is on the passenger side, bottom mounted. I will make sure it is properly mounted and secure. It's not cracked, bent, or broken. There are no signs of visible leaks or holes. Visible leak could show as soot. From there, I will inspect my frame and my cross members. I will make sure those are all properly mounted and secure. They're not cracked, bent, or broken. There are no loose or missing nuts, bolts, or other hardware, and they have no holes or illegal welds. From there, I will inspect my air lines and my glad hand connectors. Make sure those are properly mounted and secure from tractor to trailer. There are no abrasions, bulges, or cuts. They are not audibly leaking. The glad hands are fully seated. They are not audibly leaking, and the gasket seals are intact. They're not dry rotted or missing. Then I will inspect my electrical line, make sure it is properly mounted and secure from tractor to trailer. There are no exposed or frayed wires. The connectors are fully seated, and the electrical pins are not bent, damaged, or missing. Then I will make sure all of my lines are up, free off of the catwalk. Then I will inspect my catwalk and my steps, make sure they are all properly mounted and secure. They are not cracked, bent, or broken, and they are free of debris. From there, I will inspect my, my headboard. I will make sure it is properly mounted and secure. It is not cracked, bent, or broken. There are no holes or missing rivets, and no loose or missing nuts, bolts, or other hardware. From there, I will inspect my coupling system. I will inspect my apron and my skid plate, make sure they are properly mounted and secure, not cracked, bent, or broken. They are properly lubricated, and there is no gap between the apron and the skid plate. Then I will go inside and inspect the kingpin, the shank of the kingpin, and the locking jaws. Make sure those are properly mounted and secure. They're not cracked, bent, or broken. And the locking jaws are fully engaged in the locked position around the shank of the kingpin. Then I will inspect my release handle, make sure it is properly mounted and secure. It's not cracked, bent, or broken, and is fully engaged in the locked position. From there, I will inspect my pivot pin and cotter key, which connects my skid plate to the platform. We'll make sure those are properly mounted and secure. They're not cracked, bent, or broken. There are no missing cotter keys, and they're properly lubricated. From there, I will move to my sliding fifth wheel, make sure it's properly mounted and secure. It's not cracked, bent, or broken. There are no loose or missing nuts, bolts, or other hardware, and the teeth are fully engaged in the locked position. From there, I will inspect my frame, my platform connected to my frame by the mounting bolts. Make sure those are all properly mounted and secure. They're not cracked, bent, or broken. There are no loose or missing nuts, bolts, or other hardware, and there are no holes or illegal welds in the frame. From there, I will inspect my air lines for my automatic release of the fifth wheel and the sliding fifth wheel air lines. Make sure those are properly mounted and secure at both ends. There are no abrasions, bulges, or cuts, and there are no audible leaks. From back here, I will also inspect the rear suspension airbags. Make sure those are properly mounted and secure at top and bottom. They are able to hold air. There are no abrasions, bulges, or cuts, and there are no audible leaks. From there, I will move to the side of my trailer and I will start with my landing gear, which consists of my bracing arms, my frames, my legs, my feet, and the crank handle. We'll make sure they are all properly mounted and secure. They're not cracked, bent, or broken. The legs are fully raised, the feet are free of debris, and the crank handle is stowed in the travel position. From there, I will inspect the frame, the cross members, the floor, and the sliding tandems, which are connected to the frame, Make sure they are all properly mounted and secure. They are not cracked, bent, or broken. There are no holes or illegal welds in the frame, in the tandem, or the sliding tandems, frame cross members, or sliding tandems, and there are no holes in the floor. Then I will inspect the outside frame. Make sure that is properly mounted and secure. It is not cracked, bent, or broken. There are no holes or missing rivets. And then I will inspect my DOT reflective tape. Make sure it is properly mounted and secure. It is clean, not torn, and it is at least 50% down the length of the trailer. And I forgot to add that when I inspect my steps in the catwalk, I will ensure that they are able to hold the driver's weight securely. From there, I will move to my trailer suspension system. So this trailer is not equipped with leaf springs. It is equipped with shock absorbers and airbags. So I will inspect the air lines for my shocks and brakes, for my airbags and brakes. Make sure those are properly mounted and secure. They are at both ends. There are no abrasions, bulges, or cuts, and there are no audible leaks. I will inspect it's hard to see, but I will inspect the airbags. Make sure they are properly mounted and secure at the top and bottom. There are no abrasions, bulges, or cuts. There are no audible leaks, and they are able to hold air. So then I will inspect my shock absorbers, which are properly mounted and secure at the top and bottom. They are not cracked, bent, or broken, and there are no visible leaks. Then I will inspect my trailer braking system, which consists of the air lines and the brake chambers to start. I will make sure those are properly mounted and secure. They're not cracked, bent, or broken. There are no abrasions, bulges, or cuts. They have no loose or missing C-clamps or other hardware. They have no audible leaks. From there, I'll move to my push rod and rate in my push rods and slack adjusters. I'll make sure those are properly mounted and secure. They're not cracked, bent, or broken. They have no loose or missing clevis pins or cotter keys. And with the brakes applied, they should be no less than 90 degrees. And with the brakes released and pulled by hand, the slack adjusters should move no more than 1 inch. From there, I will move to my brake drums and brake linings. Make sure those are properly mounted and secure. They are not cracked, bent, or broken. They have no holes or illegal welds. They are free of oil, grease, and debris. And the brake linings have no less than 1/4 inch of thickness. From there, I move outwards to my wheels, and I will inspect all of my wheels the same way. First, I'll start with my bud spacers. Make sure they are properly mounted and secure. They're not cracked, bent, or broken. They have no holes or illegal welds. The tires are evenly spaced, and they are free of debris. From there, I will inspect the treads of my tires. I will inspect that they have even wear pattern, and that they have a minimum of 2/32 of an inch in each one of the grooves for all tires except for the steer tires, which have a minimum of 4/32 of an inch, and the steer tires must be new tires. They cannot be recaps. From there, I will come outward, inspect my exterior and interior tread walls, make sure they are properly mounted and secure. They are fully seated to the rims. They have no abrasions, bulges, or cuts, and they have no audible leaks. From there, I will inspect my rims held by their lug nuts, make sure they are properly mounted and secure. They're not cracked, bent, or broken. There are no holes or illegal welds. The lug nuts are not loose, over tight, or missing. And a sign of looseness could be rust trails or shiny threads. And a sign of over tightness could be spidering around the lug nuts. From there, I will inspect the inner and outer valve stems, make sure they are properly mounted and secure. There are no abrasions, bulges, and cuts. The caps are intact and not missing, and they have no audible leaks. From there, I will inspect the tire pressure by using an air tire pressure gauge and ensure they are at the proper manufacturer specified air pressure. From there, I will inspect my hub seals and my axle seals, which are on the drive tires. I'll make sure they are all properly mounted and secure. They're not cracked, bent, or broken. They have no loose or missing nuts, bolts, or other hardware, and there are no visible leaks. All right, and I will inspect all of my axles the same way I inspected this one, as well as making sure my sliding tandems, the locking pin is fully engaged in the lock position. All right, now I'm going to inspect the rear of my trailer. So I will be inspecting my door, the cables, the latch, the bumper, and the ramp securement. I'll make sure they are all properly mounted and secure. They're not cracked, bent, or broken. There are no holes in the door or missing rivets. The cables are not cut, worn, or frayed. The latch latches securely and is stowed in the locked travel position. The door opens and closes freely. The ramp is latched and secure in the travel position, and the DOT tape, reflective tape, is 100% across the bumper and 100% across the door of the trailer. Then I will inspect my mud flaps and mud flap brackets. I make sure those are properly mounted and secure. They are not cracked, bent, or broken, and they have a maximum of 10 inches clearance from the road. And then I will inspect this side of the trailer the same as I did the other side. But what's unique on this side of the trailer is it has two doors. So I will inspect these two doors. I make sure the doors and the hinges, as well as the latch and the seal, the securement loops and the securement hooks, are all properly mounted and secure. They are not cracked, bent, or broken. There are no loose or missing nuts, bolts, or other hardware. The hinges are not rusted or missing. There are no holes in the doors or missing rivets. The latch latches securely and is stowed in the traveled position. The door opens and closes freely. The door securement loops and securement hooks secure the door properly, and the seals are properly mounted and secure, and they are not dry rotted, cracked, or missing. And then, examiner, I am finished with the exterior inspection. Will you please assist me in inspecting my exterior lights? Now I'm in the cab inspecting my exterior lights. So first I'll inspect my low beams, work, my high beams, work, my left turn signal, works, my right turn signal, works, my clearance lights, work, and my four-way flashers, work. Now I will ask the examiner, will you please assist me in inspecting the rear lights of my vehicle, of my trailer? As the examiner is moving to the back of the trailer, I am leaving my four-way flashers on. He is inspecting all of the lights down the length of the driver's side of the tractor and trailer. So then he gets to the rear of the trailer and inspects the four-way flashers. Then I will inspect my clearance lights, my left turn signal, my right turn signal, they work, and my brakes. Now I'm going to conduct my in-cab pre-trip inspection. So first I will start with my safety equipment. My seat belt is properly mounted and secure. It's not cut, worn, or frayed. The latch latches, unlatches, and relatches securely. Next, I will start with my emergency safety equipment. So my fire extinguisher is properly mounted and secure on the driver's side floor. It is not cracked, bent, or broken. There are no visible or audible leaks. It has a full charge with the needle in the green. It is not expired. It is a minimum type 5 BC fire extinguisher, and the safety pin is intact, not bent or damaged, and in place. Next, I will inspect my 3 DOT reflective triangles. Make sure those are not cracked, damaged, or bent, and they are fully operational and clean. Then I will inspect my spare fuses, make sure I have the proper amps for this vehicle, which is 5 through 30. Then I will go ahead and inspect my, turn the key to the on position. When I do so, I'm looking for my DEF light and my ABS light on my dashboard to illuminate and go out, as well as the ABS light on my trailer to illuminate and go out. So turning the key to the on position. On the trailer, it went out. On the tractor dash, it went out. Now I'm going to do a safe start, which consists of my parking brakes applied, the shifter in neutral, my hand on the steering wheel, and my foot above the brake pedal. Once I start the engine, I'm going to be looking for my oil pressure gauge to rise to normal oil pressure within 10 seconds of starting the engine. So starting the engine. All right, my oil pressure rose to normal pressure within 10 seconds of starting my engine. Next, I'm going to look for my fuel gauge and my diesel exhaust fluid gauge. Make sure I have sufficient fuel for my trip, and my DEF tank is a minimum of 1/8 of a tank. Then I'm going to check my voltmeter. Make sure that is reading between 12 and 15 volts. Currently, it's reading 14.2. Then I'm going to check my primary and secondary air tanks gauges. And make sure those are steadily rising until the governor cuts off, which normal will happen between 120 and 140 psi. For this tractor, it happens about 125 psi. Then I will check my engine temperature gauge, which will slowly rise to a normal operating temperature of 170 to 210 degrees. Then I will check my lighting indicators. So my low beams work, my high beams work, my left turn signal works, and my right turn signal works. My four-way flashers work. Then I will inspect my city horn, works. My air horn works. And I will inspect my mirrors, make sure they are properly mounted and secure. They are not cracked, bent, or broken. They are properly adjusted. They are clean and free of anything obstructing my view. Then I will inspect my windshield and the seal around it, make sure it is properly mounted and secure. It's not cracked, chipped, or damaged. The seals are intact. They're not dry, rotted, worn, or missing. Then I'll inspect my wipers, as well as my wiper blades. Make sure they are properly mounted and secure. They are not cracked, bent, or broken. The rubber on the blades are not worn, rotted, or missing, and they are pressed firmly against the windshield. From there, I will inspect the wiper blade function and the wiper fluid, ensuring they operate correctly, and clean my windshield properly. And then I will inspect my heater and my defroster. My defroster works. My heaters work. Now I will test my parking brakes and service brakes. So first I will test my tractor parking brake by pushing in my trailer brakes, shifting into drive, and pressing on the accelerator. And when I do so, I will feel and see a slight rise in the mirrors. So testing my tractor parking brakes. The tractor brakes hold, so I will shift back into neutral. Then I will test my trailer parking brakes by pushing in the tractor brakes, having my trailer brakes out, pushing in the tractor brakes, shifting to drive and pressing on the accelerator. And when I do so, I will see and feel a slight rise in the mirrors. So drive, my trailer brakes hold, so I will shift back to neutral. Next, I will test my service brakes by pushing in both of my parking brakes for the trailer and tractor, shifting into drive and pressing on the accelerator. When I do, I will accelerate to a maximum of 5 miles per hour, have my hands at a 9 and 3 position on the steering wheel, slightly holding it, and I don't want to feel any veer to the left or right. So my service brakes work, so I will shift back to neutral, and there I did not feel any veer to the right or left, indicating my slack adjusters are in alignment. So next, I am ready to start my LAB tests. In order to do so, I will need to shock the wheels. And bring the key with me. To conduct my test, I will need to be at full pressure in the air tanks, so I will do another safe start. Parking brakes applied, shifter in neutral, hand on the steering wheel and foot above the brake pedal. To conduct my test, I will need to push in both of my parking brakes and wait for the governor to cut off, which will happen between 120 to 140 psi. And again, for this vehicle, it happens about 125. So right now, I'm watching my pressure gauge getting close to 125, and I'm also listening for the governor to cut off. All right, that was the governor cutoff. Now I have full pressure. I will turn the key off, pull out my stopwatch, turn the key back to the on position. Now I will start my leakage test. To conduct my leakage test, I will press firmly on the brake pedal and hold it. I will watch the air gauge, and once the air settles in the lines, I will start my 1 minute timer. And in that 1 minute for a combination vehicle, I should not lose more than 4 psi. So I'm ready to start the test. All right, the air has settled. Start my timer. In this 1 minute, I have my interior noises off and my windows open so I can listen for any leaks outside as well as inside. And I'm also monitoring the air pressure gauges for any loss in air pressure. All right, 1 minute has lapsed. All right, so my leakage test was successful. Next, I will go to my alarms test. So this tractor is equipped with a visible and an audible alarm. So I will fan the brake pedal continuously until, and the alarms should sound and illuminate no later than 60 PSI. So I am ready to start the test. All right, the alarms illuminated and sounded no later than 60 PSI. So the test was successful. All right, so now I'm ready to start my buttons test. In order to do so, I will fan the brakes continuously until the buttons pop out, which will happen no later than 20 PSI. So I'm ready to start the test. All right, the buttons popped out no later than 20 PSI, so the test was successful. Next, I will do another safe start to rebuild air pressure. Now that I have enough pressure, I will release the trailer air supply because this is a dual air system and I need to have a minimum of 100 PSI in both of my air tanks for all of the brakes to release. By doing that, I sent air to the trailer and I'm charging the entire system. All right, now that I have just over 100 PSI in both air tanks, I have charged the system enough to release the brakes. So I will conclude my pre-trip inspection.